What's up, guys? Welcome to part 2. You guys have chosen Heracles, so let's see where that choice is going to lead you. You've just been defeated by Cerberus. The conditions were that if you lost the fight, your soul was to be trapped in the Underworld forever. And if you think that you have a way to get out, think again, because Hades is going to personally make sure that you never make it out of here. You're not really sure what's going to happen to you now. Is Hades going to take you in under his wing, put you to work because you're a powerful magician? Is he going to send you to the Asphodel Meadows to be like one of those souls without any progress or purpose of any kind? Or are you going to go to Tartarus? You have absolutely no idea. And meanwhile, in the mortal world, Theseus is already working to get you out. Theseus has a feeling that something is up with you and that you might actually be in trouble. Because there was an earthquake near Athens, a small but subtle one. And most of the people just brushed it off like it was nothing. But Theseus had a feeling you had something to do with it. Theseus follows your instructions. You told him that if anything bad were to happen, if anything were to happen that would prevent you from getting out from the underworld, he was to go to Heracles and ask for help. Now Theseus and Heracles had never formally met before, but they share something in common: a bull. The story with the bull started with a guy called Minos. Minos was a future king of Crete, a potential king if you will. The crown was up for grabs between him and his brothers. And obviously he wanted to be the one who would be the rightful king of Crete, so he went to Poseidon for help. Poseidon agreed to help him and gave him a beautiful white bull from the ocean so that he could show to the Cretan people to show that he had the support of the gods to become the next king of Crete. But Poseidon had one condition. He would only help Minos if he promised to sacrifice the bull back to Poseidon once he became king. Minos, he fell in love with the beauty of the bull. I mean, it was a really beautiful bull, and he did not want to sacrifice it. Instead, he sacrificed another bull and kept that one for himself. Poseidon got very angry, as was expected from his personality. If you ever went against Poseidon and did anything that wronged him in any way, he would get very, very angry. But this time, he didn't personify his anger. Instead, he passed his anger onto the bull. The bull became crazy and started terrorizing the people of Crete. Not only that, but Poseidon also made Minos' wife have an insatiable hunger for the bull. And I don't mean that she wanted to eat him. I meant a sexual hunger. The result of all of this was that you had now a crazy bull ravaging and terrorizing the people of Crete, and then you had the creation of the Minotaur, which came from the bull and Minos' wife. The first person to sort of deal with this bull was Heracles during his 7th labor, which was about the bull. He went to Crete, found the bull, captured it, and then shipped it back to King Eurystheus as he was told to do. But he didn't really care for the bull after that. He just moved on to his 8th labor. The bull eventually broke free and then started to terrorize the people of Athens this time. Now, since Heracles wasn't going to take care of the bull, at least it didn't look like he was, Theseus decided it would be his task to do so. He went to Athens, found the bull, killed it, and offered it as a sacrifice to Athena. The people were ecstatic and they cheered him as a hero. Theseus figures that he can use the bull as a sort of excuse, as leverage to get Heracles to help. Because Heracles didn't finish the job, Theseus had to do it for him, and people suffered in the process. And Heracles, being the hero that he was, surely was going to feel bad about this, he was going to feel guilty, and he was going to help Theseus. The thing was that Heracles was now a full-on god, living in Mount Olympus with everyone else. And usually it was commonly said that no mortal could ever see or go to Mount Olympus. But Theseus was a national Greek hero, and he was half divine, son of Poseidon. So that definitely qualifies him for an audience with the gods. If you think I forgot about you, Diocles, then you're very wrong. I haven't. Let's go back and see how you are doing. You're now in the Underworld. After the fight with Cerberus, your physical body had died. You had become a simple soul in the Underworld, just like everyone else. Your magical powers, your stats, everything you've worked for so hard in this game were completely gone. In Hades, well, he doesn't care for you at all. I mean, you've become a nobody to him. You are nothing like Heracles. You couldn't even defeat Cerberus, let alone take out 25% of his HP. He doesn't even bother to speak with you anymore. You're not even worth that. He just leaves your fate up to the judges of the Underworld like everyone else. Now, the judges of the Underworld were the people who decided your fate. They decided whether you went to Asphodel, Elysium, or Tartarus. And once a decision was made, it was made for the rest of eternity. so you better be on good terms with those judges. The three judges were Aeacos, Rhadamanthys, and Minos, the latter of which had the casting vote, should there be a deadlock. Basically what that means is that should the other two be undecided, he was the one who got to decide your fate. If there was one person in particular that you really had to be on good terms with, it was Minos. And by the way, that Minos is the same Minos that was the king of Crete with a Cretan bull that we just talked about. And that's important. Since you were now physically dead, you were no longer allowed to freely roam the underworld like you had been before. At least not until you were judged. Basically, how that would work is that once you were judged, you were sent to one part of the underworld, let's say it was the Asphodel Meadows for example, and then you had some sort of freedom to roam around. But until you were judged, you had to be guided. And there were a few guides that would guide you to different places in the underworld depending on where you needed to go. Like we've seen Charon, the ferryman of the underworld, he was one of those guides. And to get to the judges of the underworld, you had to go through someone else. You had to go through Hermes. Hermes was the messenger of the gods. He was a god himself, but he was described as being able to move freely between the world of the dead, the world of the living, and the world of the gods. And having been associated with travel and movement, he quickly became viewed as a sort of protector of travelers. He was the perfect guy to become the guide of dead souls. He brings you in front of the judges and just leaves you there, at their mercy. You look up to them and see three men sitting on three different thrones. They're looking at you and they're ready to make their judgment. Meanwhile, Theseus meets with Heracles and briefs him on the situation. Now Heracles wasn't very smart, but even then, he can recognize that this was a very stupid idea. Like, how could Theseus, in his right mind, send a mortal to the underworld alone and unprepared? Like, you were bound to fail. Theseus mentions the bull and how he had to kill it when Heracles didn't. And Heracles was known for his strength, mostly, and of course his 12 labors. But he was also known to have a certain temper, and to be reckless at times. In fact, most of his big accomplishments only happened because he was forced to do them as a punishment for something else. But even then, he had a sense of justice, a sense of retribution. He had a conscience. And you can see this by the fact that, look, nobody was strong enough, like Heracles was very strong. Nobody was strong enough to force him to do anything besides maybe Zeus. But the fact that he did his 12 labors, the fact that he completed them when he didn't really have to, shows that he at least cared to right the wrongs that he's done in the past. It shows that he has some sort of a good side, which means that he might be willing to help. He feels regret for not having dealt with the bull completely, and actually thanks Theseus for having finished the job for him. In return, he agrees to help. He agrees to help both you and also Perseus. The only thing was, like, how are they going to get you out of the underworld? We're back to square one. I hope that by now you're able to realize that getting somebody out from the underworld was actually pretty difficult. Remember that Theseus can't really go back into the underworld a second time. Like we said, Hades would not let him escape if he did. Heracles offers to go in alone and to talk to Hades. I mean, Heracles was now a god and he had been into the underworld before and he talked with Hades before. Hades would not dismiss him so easily. Before he leaves, Theseus tells him something important. He tells him that the priority is to get you out, not Perseus. Like, sure, the quest was originally to get Perseus out, but that's not what's important right now. He feels guilt for having sent you into the underworld unprepared, and he wants to get you out. He tells Heracles that if there's a situation where he can only get one of you out, he has to choose you. Perseus, they can deal with him another time. And something that Theseus doesn't tell Heracles, but you should know, is that he deeply hopes that Heracles can get to you before you reach the judges of the underworld. You're standing in front of the judges. They're looking at you and you're anxiously waiting around, hoping for something to happen. Is somebody gonna come and help you? Theseus? Heracles? Zeus? Athena? Anyone? The judges, one by one, prepare to give their vote. It's clear that you're not going to Elysium, like, get that idea out of your head right now. It's up between Asphodel and Tartarus. Aeacos is not really a fan of you. You came into the underworld to rescue a criminal, which in and of itself makes you a criminal. So he votes Tartarus. Rhadamanthys, on the other hand, has a grudge against Minos because they were brothers. While they were both trying to get the crown of Crete, Minos exiled him so that he would be the one to become the king. And Radamanthys kind of feels that Minos is going to vote Tartarus, so he decides to vote Asphodel simply in spite of Minos. Which means that we now have a deadlock, an indecision. The final decision is on Minos, the one with the casting vote. Before we continue, you have to know something important about Theseus and Minos. Remember the bull that Theseus killed? That bull came to existence through Minos and Poseidon. That wasn't really the problem. The problem was that that bull had a child, the Minotaur. That was the problem. The Minotaur, being half animal and half human, with the head of a bull and the body of a man, quickly resorted to eating humans for food. He literally could not eat anything else. And of course, he wanted to eat the Cretans. Obviously, the people of Crete were not happy about this. I mean, they had just gotten a bull, they got rid of the bull, they were happy, and now there was a Minotaur terrorizing them once again. To help the people of Crete and to stop them from being eaten by the Minotaur, he created a labyrinth and put the Minotaur there for him to live in there forever. And he would every so often give him some humans for him to eat. But don't worry, those humans were not from Crete, they were actually from Athens. Now, even though that child, if you will, was born out of undesirable circumstances, it still was, at the time, the only living son of Minos. Unfortunately, Theseus, while trying to do a good deed for Athens, came in, went to the labyrinth, and killed the Minotaur, and then escaped. Something that nobody had ever done before. Of course, Minos was beyond enraged. I mean, who wouldn't be? But he never got his revenge. Theseus became a national hero, and he became the judge of the Underworld. Theseus never died, and that's where you come in. Minos knows that you're working for Theseus. He knows you're doing a quest for Theseus, and that you're here to get Pirithous out. At that very moment, Heracles enters the scene looking for you. He's there to rescue you. Wow, a moment of hope. He talked to Hades, and Hades said that he would personally not do anything, but if the judges of the Underworld were to allow it, he would allow you to escape. The only thing you had to do was convince the judges. You look at Heracles, you look at Minos, and you have a feeling, and you kind of know that Minos is set on his decision. Theseus killed his last remaining son, something he was carrying with him until this very day. He was not gonna play nice. Minos cast his vote, and he chooses Tartarus. That's it. The deadlock is broken. You look at Heracles, he can't do anything, nobody else can do anything. That's it. Your fate is sealed. I'm sorry, but you've kind of failed the quest. Game over.